Hi, very good morning to you. It's Jim from maverickstar. Guys, before we begin, I just want to say a brief thank you to 3 people yesterday that chipped in a little bit of support for the observatory. You know, I can't really run anything without the support. And I know it's difficult for us all. Look, I live in the UK. We're supposed to be one of the richest countries in the world. Yet, we got people who are frightened to spend money on food right now because they can't afford to heat the house and put electric on, put the gas in the house so they can heat it and eat food as well. And these are some of the most vulnerablest people we've got in this country. And you know, those vulnerable people now include some of the middle class people. I'm talking about people that work like for the NHS, the hospitals. They can't afford to put the gas on in the house after they've came home after doing that amazing job that they do. And there's something very wrong when we end up in a situation like this. But it's not just the UK that's suffering energy prices and crippling energy prices. It's most of Europe, the United States, Canada, everywhere. It seems that the energy cartels have again, not surprisingly, come together and all put the prices up at the same time so that there is no argument, and then, you know, try to justify it by some means or other. You know, it feels sometimes to me like, you know, we are being raped and it's open season on the general public. I mean, I know what you're paying in the taxes in America, on your salaries and on the things that you purchase. It's more taxes after more taxes. And this, what we're looking at here, will be nothing more than a stealth tax. And what my interpretation of a stealth tax is another way of taking money off you by not directly telling you it was a tax. And as you can see, on the back of COP26, they was trying to get the world governments to all contribute to forming a kitty of £100 trillion to fight off the climate. And the problem is with this is that, as we can see also in this little screen where if you press play, you'd be talking about one of the first aircrafts, passenger flights that took off using 100% drop in sustainable aviation fuel. None of this, what they're trying to do, is going to work, or does it make sense? And the repercussions of this are already being felt by millions of people. I just want to explain first of all, the reason why I'm talking about the aviation fuel is because what fuel it is being used in that aircraft is ethanol, or ethanol based, very close to ethanol. It's produced by sugar, so it's definitely ethanol based, as opposed to standard jet fuel, which is more consistent with a paraffin mix of oil and has probably been refined from crude oils. But the problem is if you're going to set out a target like by 2050, all passenger aircraft and commercial aircraft will have to use this fuel, as they've already stated. First of all, it will cost 8 times more to fill the plane up. But I just want to talk about the agricultural productive land that is going to be necessarily put aside just to produce this aircraft fuel. What does that mean? Well, it will mean that the poorer people won't be able to travel, for one, that more of the arable growing cropping land that we need for food will be used for this. Let's face it, a lot of our land is being consumed now, if not for growing. It's being consumed for solar panel fields, which don't produce electricity in some circumstances, like especially if you're over the northern hemisphere. You know, the daylight hours change dramatically. I mean, you could get it dark at 4 o'clock on the afternoon, and then in the summer still have it light at 9 o'clock. So, you know, we are facing lots of different things, but inevitably it is going against one thing, and that is the land that we use to grow our crops on. Solar panels, wind power generation, all these things that we've seen don't work very well, yet we are putting more and more demand on our energy systems now than we have ever done before, because now they want us all driving electric vehicles by 2030. You know, I've done a little calculation. You can check it for yourselves. I could get the calculator out right now and show you, but 100 trillion divided by the population of the earth, 8 billion, is £12,500 each. And that doesn't mean that, you know, the 8 billion people are actually in employment at the moment. That you know, I'm just talking about the population. That's everyone on the earth, or close to everyone on the earth. Not everyone can afford £12,500 each, but that is what they're pushing to take off us. That's a year's salary for some people in the UK. That is a lifetime salary for someone in the Middle East. This world can't afford this bullshit. We can't afford it. Carbon, by the way, is not what this is all about. I've showed you what this is all about. Whilst the climate changes because of some unique events that have come together, for instance, three main ones: grand solar minimum, which is a slowing down of solar activity, and has been, you know, in trend for the last 33 years, hasn't showed equilibrium, so it hasn't got any better yet. Then we've got the magnetic pole reversal, with the weakening of the magnetosphere, allowing more cosmic rays inbound, causing jet streams to be more sluggish and therefore changing the climate as the jet stream cycles become more wavy. They dip lower down, they fragment, and you have intertwine over the northern and southern hemispheres with polar and subtropical jet streams, causing and leading to these flash floods and, you know, once on record snowstorms, etc. And likewise droughts, which lead to early forest fires. You know, this is climate change that they talk about, but not climate change as we talk about it, because we talk about the real influences on what is the driving of the climate and the changing of the climate. If you go back 30 years, if you're a climatologist, you will see where we're coming from. It's no coincidence that in the last 30 years we had an uptick of movement of the magnetic North Pole, further weakening of the magnetosphere, and, you know, a magnetic pole covering more distance in shorter space of time. And then we have the third anomaly, which is throwing spanners into the works for us, and that is a returning clearly back into a glacial period. And for those that think, oh, we've only just begun to go back into that glacial period, or that 50-year cycle where we reach the elliptical max, think again. It could be already 6,000 to possibly more than that years into that cycle, and we don't quite know where the point is that it crosses and starts to cool the earth dramatically. But all I'm saying is, with the magnetic pole reversal on the cards and the grand solar minimum, it is further influenced and maybe compounded as a result, and we could see a, you know, glacial period emerge on this planet much sooner. You know, they're talking about raising £100 trillion, and what they can do with, you know, even £500 trillion is beyond me with regards to scrubbing the CO2 out of the atmosphere, because if nature can't do it, and she does it on an alarming scale when you compare to what we're doing right now, is beyond me. So all I'm saying is if they just wait a little bit, what they're going to find is, as we've seen recorded in just only 400,000 years, we could go back even longer than that, but if they just wait a little bit, what they will see is CO2 reducing naturally without the need to go to any further extreme. You know, I haven't got a problem with electric cars. I think that we're not ready for them yet. I think the battery technology needs to be improved before we start raping, you know, the Earth's resources for the cobalt and lithium. There is only a certain amount on the surface of the Earth, and I don't think it can support the replacement of every combustion car today that's on the roads with the batteries in cars that would need to replace every combustion car. So, you know, I don't think that that's a good idea. Another thing is we are heavily investing in solar power technology, which involves silicate. Again, it's not a reproducing material, and, you know, I think they need to really look into the recycling of these panels, because they only have a life expectancy. Likewise does the batteries. And we're already seeing the technologies in lacking and recycling the silicate for the solar panels and the cobalt and the lithium back out these batteries, to support anything in the terms of sustainability. It just doesn't. Not only that, what we're seeing emerge now is another child labour intensive industry form because of the mining of cobalt in places like Africa. So, we're not fixing any of the problems that we're addressing. And first of all, some of the problems that have ended up on the table for us to fix are not really problems that needed to be fixed in the first place. And I'm talking with extra little bit of carbon in the atmosphere due to recent period of warmth that we naturally go through. It's called, for those scientists and those climate scientists that can't go back further than 200 years, like Michael Mann, it's called an interglacial period. That's why there has been a release of extra carbon dioxide, and I suppose the next chart will show and prove that. Here's that chart that I prepared for you guys a few weeks ago, maybe a couple of months ago. But you can see the horizontal line at 0 degrees is the cut-off point from a glacial to interglacial period. When it goes above that line, we go into an interglacial period, which lasts around 12 to 15,000 years. Then once we go back below that 0 degrees line Celsius, it goes marginally or steadily a glacial period. The point is that you can see clearly once the temperature has peaked, CO2 peaks and then it starts to come down. CO2 is following the temperature. CO2 is not driving the temperature. This chart points it out very clearly, and you can see that we're looking at just over 400,000 years history of glacial and interglacial cycles. This is what Michael Mann is not showing people. He wants to show them just 2 to 250 years of time, and the reason for that is it's obviously cherry-picked data because he's just showing you the time from the Industrial Revolution. Well, if you look from the 1900s to the present time with regards to how much temperatures increase, then it would look like that is what is driving the climate. You'd think, yes, CO2 must be driving the climate because the Industrial Revolution started around about 1760. But the point is this, is that you cannot have enough information to base your future predictions on, and therefore if you can't have enough information, or the more information should I say you have, the better your predictions are, then you certainly don't just look at the last 200 years and omit all the previous interglacial and glacial cycles out of that, because you miss the big picture. Because if Michael Mann and all the other climate scientists that they claim that have now concluded their evidence, and there's no need to re-look over this again, if they'd have looked at this chart, they would have seen that mankind is not responsible for, first of all, raising the CO2 in the atmosphere to the levels where it causes problems, and as we will see, nature will deal with that when that time comes. And you can see and the beginning of the 5th time that he's done this. So yes, cyclical, what we now know causes these cycles is the Milankovitch cycle, which is the changing of the shape of our orbit. Usually in an interglacial cycle we're doing a perfect sphere around our sun, and then it starts to become elliptical, like an egg shape, and that means that the Earth travels a bit further away, and when it does, the northern hemisphere, the equatorial region and the southern hemisphere of our Earth move that little bit further away, and it is by no reason, as you would expect, going to cause cooling of the planet. And as you can see, we spend most of the time in glacial periods, more say like 90,000 years of each cycle we spend in a glacial period. I've argued this a lot. We are not set up for this. The real reasons for concern are not being dealt with. That £100 trillion, if it was put against infrastructure, separating agricultural land that could be more beneficial during this glacial period that we're arriving into, you would understand why we were all paying a little bit extra tax. I don't think it's fair for them to come out with a figure of 100 trillion when we know there's 8 billion people on the planet, and if you just do the sums, that works out at £12,500 each, and that is for children, for people that have retired, elderly, for mentally ill that can't work. But when we count 8 billion, we include all those people. But you can't. Let's just say off the top of my head, out the 8 billion, there might be 5 billion of those, 4 billion of those actually in work, and out the 4 billion that's in work, probably 1 billion may be able to afford, a fee of 12,500. But if they can't afford it, the ones that can't afford it because they're out of work or their children and all that burden then must go over to the ones that can. So it might end up being a lot more. And I think if they are going to go around censoring charts like this on YouTube, targeting channels on YouTube that talk about this by cutting their advert revenue off like they did with us, going onto our private website, removing climate information off there. If they're going to do that, then obviously you're talking about something that is very sensitive to their plans, and if more people become aware of it, then it's going to be more difficult for these elitists to get away with their plans. I understand your frustration because you feel that you can't do something about it, and if you personally genuinely can't do something about it, then why not support somebody that believes they can? Because as I've said before, if you go into anything in life with optimism and the belief that you can, the chances are you will succeed at it. But if you go in with negativity and pessimism, then the chances are you failed before you even thought you could succeed. The chances are you will fail. Guys, we're not just trying here at the observatory collect data and run our observatory, we are trying to also fight for the freedoms that we seem to be losing on a daily basis now. I've taken it up with my MP with regards to what these corporations are doing about silencing freedom of information in this day and age where we boast and love our democracies, because that is what is being put in harm's way. Our democratic societies, which we love so much, is being decayed before our very eyes, and with that our freedoms. At the heart of any democracy in any country in the world that has democracy within it is the freedom and the right to express your opinions on whatever topic that may be. But that is what is at threat now, and that is why it's inspired me to go out and question these MPs. Now, he hasn't replied to me in nearly 5 weeks of emailing him, so I'm going to be following it up. If YouTube and Google and the MPs think that I'm going to disappear away and not pursue this, because it's a no-brainer. You can't have corporations like Google, Facebook that have subscribers to the tune of half the population of the earth, 4 billion people subscribe to them, and not be accountable for human rights violations. Then it's wrong, because you can't also have these corporations use these human rights to protect themselves as a corporation. I know you might find that a little bit hard to get your head around, but it's true. But you can't have them have the best of both worlds. This is a loophole which now the modern time requires it being sewn up so it can't be exploited by governments using corporations like Google and YouTube and Facebook to manipulate general public's opinion, because this is a behaviour that leads to wars and revolutions. And right now we are being crushed down. And it's like I say, if you can't have the stamina and the balls yourselves to do something about it, or even the willpower, then why not support those that are prepared to do it for you? I will do it for you. I just need support. I'll continue gathering the information on these events, these three anomalies that we're living right now just need support for doing it. And I will also, try and protect my freedom of rights as well as yours. I just need support to do that. If we come together, we can resolve these problems. We don't have to sit by and let these corporations get away with literally blue murder and rape. It is, in my view, a human rights violation when you attack somebody's democracy, when you have such a lot of power and you go after people that have none at all, just a tiny little bit of influence. 30,000 subscribers is nothing. It's nothing, yet it is too much for these corporations. Even a little bit is too much. We have to stand up, guys. We can't just be these people that are pacified by what we see and hear and what we witness. We have to be proactive. I hope you do realise on this channel that we're a little bit different to the others. We could easily cherry pick all the stories on the internet and bring them together in a nice little package that, seems to follow a concise pattern, and you would agree with whatever we're talking about. We actually collect our data ourselves with our own equipment. That, I feel, is what these corporations find more offensive than ever. They find the fact that we are qualified here to talk about these subjects, and they can't use that against us, because what they would say is, you're a conspiracy theorist and you are not qualified in the subject that you're talking about. Well, on 2 occasions where I've been punished by these organisations, I have been qualified to talk about it. Which is why we need to work together. More important now, so that we can try and slow down the arterial flow of blood that's leaking out of our democracy system, and try and reverse that. Guys, there's a link down there if you want to help support what we do. And you know what we stand for. We need to do a little bit better. I want to wish you a good day. Take care of your loved ones, as always. Bye for now.